Here's something new for you guys. Welcome everyone to the first installment of a new series called Sketchy Impressions. In this series, I'll be taking anything I find interesting, be it a movie, a video game, TV show, etc., and give my thoughts on it. As the title suggests, these videos are going to be a little less formal than actual reviews, but they'll still cover my thoughts in a meaningful capacity. On today's installment, I'll be giving my impressions on The Lion Guard: Return of the Roar. Return of the Roar is a movie that serves as a pilot to an upcoming TV series that'll premiere in January. When it was originally announced, it was only going to air on Disney Junior, but it was later changed to air on both Disney Channel and Disney Junior. My best guess as to why is probably because of the fan reception from the original announcement. They probably wanted to reach as big of an audience as they could. But enough about that, let's jump into the impressions. Story. The story follows Simba and Nala's second cub, Kion, as he learns that he's the one destined to revive the Lion Guard, a group of animals sworn to protect the Pride Lands and the Circle of Life. If you're an avid TLK fan, the first thing you'll notice is that this story doesn't take place after Simba's pride, but during, since Kiara is still a cub. It's assumed that this happens after Kiara first met Kovu, but before she grew to adulthood. This made me a bit skeptical at first, especially since I would have loved to see adult Kiara with a little bro. But I eventually shrugged it off after realizing that this isn't the first time this has happened. And not just with The Lion King. And not just with Disney. Despite the timeline placement, I was surprised by how much care was put into crafting the story and how the Lion Guard fits into the world of the TLK series. The roar that is mentioned in the title is a power possessed by the destined leader of the Lion Guard. When they roar, the kings of the past roar with them. The leader of the last generation of the Lion Guard was Scar, but when he tried to rally the other members of the guard to overthrow Mufasa and they refused, he used the roar to kill them, and by doing that, he was permanently stripped of his power. I thought this was a pretty cool element of the story, and it felt like something that fits into the history of the Pride Lands. Even in smaller scenes, the story never forgets its founding philosophy, the Circle of Life, and I gotta give some respect for that. Like the original movie, Disney got a Swahili language expert to work with them on the series, so the character catchphrases have actual meaning instead of just being random words that sound African. So extra points for authenticity. Characters. The movie has a pretty large cast, and because it's supposed to lead into a TV series, some characters, naturally, get more attention than others. Let's start with our main character, Kion. I think they struck a good balance with his personality here. He does like to have fun with his friends and is pretty easygoing, but when he's given a responsibility, he does take it seriously and doesn't mess around. Next we have Kion's best friend, Bunga, Timon and Pumbaa's adopted nephew. At first, he was annoying. Like, really annoying. But as the movie goes on, he does tone it down a bit and shows a side of him that just wants to be useful to others, so I eventually got used to him a little bit. I'll have to see where the series takes him. Simba also plays an important role, as he is the one that teaches Kion about the guard. He's shown to be a pretty firm father, where he's stricter with Kion and more protective of Kiara. Some would call that an inconsistency, but speaking from the perspective of someone who's also in a family of 4 and has a sister of their own, Simba's portrayal is pretty realistic to me, and it follows his portrayal in Lion King 2. My only real issue for Simba is his voice. In this movie, there's a gruffness in his voice that doesn't quite fit, and it sounded like his voice actor was trying to go for more of a Mufasa and less of a Simba. Speaking of Mufasa, he appears towards the end of the film to guide his young grandson. Despite his small appearance, it was still a significant part in what I think is the best scene of the film. Mufasa offers some great words of wisdom to Kion, who's afraid of ending up like Scar since he can't control his power. And I'm hoping that he'll return every now and then to help the cub out. Also, props to Disney for getting James Earl Jones to come back. Moving on, there's Big Sis Kiara. Here we see her beginning to accept her role as future queen as she learns the ways of ruling from her father. She still has that smug attitude, but it's not to the point where she's annoying. Finally, we have the main villain, Janja, and the only reason why I knew his name is because I had to look it up, which should clue you into how memorable he is. Here's a hint. He isn't. I do have to take this movie's original intended audience into account here. I can't expect someone on Scar or Zira's level, but he could be a little bit better. As he is now, he's alright, I guess. Hopefully other villains will be introduced in the series to spice things up. While we still have the rest of Kaion's friends, Bestie, Fuli, and Ono, Kiara's friends, Zuri and Tifu, and the majority of the characters from the original movies, they don't play a big enough role for me to make any meaningful comments. Most of the new characters are pretty interesting though, so I'm looking forward to seeing more of them in the series. Also, they got Gabrielle Union to play Nala. Hell yes. Music and visuals. Return of the Roar definitely looks like it belongs in the Lion King franchise. I was afraid that this was gonna be CGI when I first heard about it, especially since Disney Junior loves its CGI, but thankfully we get some good old 2D. The new characters are really well designed, especially Kaion, Fuli, Zuri, and Tifu. As for the music, the score is great, especially when we get to the more intense action scenes. The songs though, most of them are forgettable at best, with the exception of Kaion's solo, It Is Time, which was a pretty good song. If it's any consolation, the song I thought I was really gonna hate ended up being not that bad. Overall, the Lion Guard Return of the Roar left a pretty good impression on me. There's some cool lore behind it, it looks and feels like a part of the TLK series, and most of the characters are fun to watch. Once I got past the forgettable songs, meh villains, and some juvenile humor here and there, I found a good movie that can please both the older and younger generations of TLK fans, despite the younger skew. I'm definitely looking forward to the TV show's January premiere. I won't be doing episodic reviews, but I might revisit the series somewhere down the line. We'll just have to see. So what did you think of Return of the Roar? What do you think of this new video series? Let me know in the comments below or hit me up on social media. And consider supporting me on Patreon or commissioning me for art via PayPal. Until next time, keep it sketchy, folks.